poignant, moving, bittersweet, dark comedy. That is the best way I would describe MADTOWN. This one written and directed by Charles Moore and stars Milo Ventimiglia as Denny, who is a character central to this movie. This comes to us at the beginning of January 2018. It's been on this festival circuit from 2016, but on general release on VOD from the beginning of January. So this isn't the typical film that we would normally review here at the Geek Legion of Doom. This is not a genre film. It is not a horror, sci-fi action film. It is a drama comedy, and a dark comedy at that. So let's discuss the plot. I will go into a very vague plot synopsis here because I think the best way to enjoy this movie is to really know very little about it, and that's kind of how I watched it. I got sent this movie and asked to review it, didn't read anything about it, so it's kind of a complete surprise what I was getting into, and I'm so glad that's kind of the way I watched it. But ultimately it focuses on this character called Denny, played by Ventimiglia, and he's this guy who has led a somewhat of a troubled life. He was called Turtle Boy at school, and this basically kind of means he's a little slow. He isn't mentally handicapped or anything, he's just kind of a little bit slow off the uptake, a little bit kind of naive, and you know, he basically gets this job at a kind of a diner after getting sacked from his last job, and you know, he's pretty much just a kind of guy who keeps to himself, and he kind of learns that in this new job he kind of meets the kind of the employees and the kind of staff that work there, and really starts to kind of bond with them and actually start maybe enjoying life, even maybe having a little bit of a kind of a romance in there as well. Now he's got also this sister who's been in prison for the last 20 years, and you'll find out the reasons why as the film progresses, and she's kind of due to be released at any point basically, and these two kind of like things in his life are going to collide and you know, have basically some far-reaching consequences. So let's discuss MADTOWN. Now I've been deliberately vague with my plot synopsis, and it might seem like there's nothing in this film, but trust me, this film, it has a lot of levels on it, and it's one of these, when a film can make you question what you would do in this situation, and kind of, it doesn't give you a clear answer, and it kind of makes you think, that's really, you're stuck in a rock and a hard place. The film does a great job of this. It really kind of makes you question what you would do in this situation and what is the right or wrong answer. And that does sound a little bit cryptic, having not telling you what the question is, but when you watch this film, you'll be thinking, man, that is really kind of a you know, a difficult place to be in, and a kind of a real kind of moral quandary. And it's great that the film really sucks you into these characters basically, and kind of plops you in these kind of situations, and really kind of makes you feel for these characters as kind of real people, and you really kind of want the best of these kind of characters to succeed, but these situations will arise basically, and really kind of have to kind of push characters in one way or the other, and think it really does a great job of getting you emotionally invested and questioning what you would do in these situations. So very well done to the filmmakers for that. I feel that the performances here are across the board particularly great. I feel each and every one of these characters, although some of them obviously don't have as much characterization as others, you know, they've got the side characters, nonetheless everyone here feels like you get a good sense of who the character is meant to be, and the kind of the direction that they have with this kind of our main sort of character Denny here, and how he kind of plays off of him. Every single one of the performances I thought was excellent here. And there's no kind of good guys or bad guys as such. It's just a kind of a great sort of character piece. It's also darkly funny. I struggle to call this film a straight comedy, but there are some dark kind of comedic moments here. Denny, the kind of central character, has aspirations about being a kind of a stand-up comic basically, and we see kind of that theme kind of carried through, and there are some kind of quite funny lines here and some, you know, some amusing situations, but a lot of the comedy is kind of bittersweet, tinged with kind of tragedy, but I've got to say it's a moving film the whole way through. Do I have any kind of critiques with it? No major ones, I'll be quite honest. I think this is a very well made film without a lot of kind of like genuine critiques. A couple of little nitpicks maybe. The first, we get a few flashbacks as the film progresses. The very first one, I didn't realise it was a flashback. I didn't think it made, and I thought it was just other characters that were going to be introduced, and not until we kind of got to the kind of the second flashback, I kind of realised, oh, that was actually a flashback I was watching before. So maybe it could have set up that a little better. Some real kind of nitpicky stuff here. I guess having worked in the service industry, we have this kind of this restaurant where the majority of the film takes place. Seems to have very few staff for a kind of a functioning restaurant, and I just thought, obviously they're trying to have each member of staff be a character, but I just don't think it kind of would genuinely have that fewer staff. And I guess the only other thing that I would say is the side characters that we get, people who maybe work at the restaurant, seem a little bit too nice and maybe a little bit too great. They seem to be written to be not maybe quite as complex as maybe real characters will be, and we get kind of some people in flashbacks who go maybe the other way as well. So maybe our kind of peripheral characters are kind of maybe written to be characteristics rather than characters. But they do a good job with what they've got, I've got to say. But overall, I've got to say this movie gave me the feels. It gave me the feels. It made me really care about these characters. It made me care about what happens. I wanted to find out what happens next. And when it ended, I wanted more. And there's no greater compliment that I can kind of say to a film that it just left me wanting more. And it didn't, but it didn't leave me disappointed about what happens. I feel this movie has some great kind of like twists and turns that don't come out of nowhere. They are earned and they make sense. And this is why I say try to avoid reading too much about this movie, and that's why I've kind of been a bit vague, so it might seem that not a lot happened in this film, but trust me, you'll go on an emotional roller coaster with this one. This is a great movie, not the kind of typical film that we would normally review here, but I'm so glad I got the chance to watch it. I would definitely recommend it if you like drama and sort of like that kind of stuff. If you're just wanting zombie films and explosions, then this clearly isn't going to be the movie for you, but if you do like a bit of emotional resonance, great character moments, and some bittersweet comedy, check it out. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to you next time. Bye for now.